Yeah, there's few, I think, important abstracts that may have implications in terms of our practice. First one, it will be presented at the plenary session tomorrow, which is the Echelon trial, Echelon 1, which compared standard ABVD for a newly diagnosed a patient with Hodgkin lymphoma compared to the experimental arm, which is AVD plus brentuximab vedotin or Adcetris. And more than 1,300 patients randomized, showing about 5% difference in what's called modified progression-free survival. You know, from statistical point of view, the study met the primary endpoint, likely to be approved. I think we will have to wait until tomorrow and see the details of the analysis to see which subset may have benefited beyond the 5%. And this may change the way we treat these subsets of patients. So that's an important trial. I think that will be presented tomorrow. Another one is actually, going to be presented also an oral presentation, is the Acalabrutinib, which is newly approved for patients with relapsed mantle cell lymphoma. It's a new oral BTK inhibitor. It's twice-a-day dosing. It's more selected targeting of BTK, so likely to have less side effects. It's unlikely to have a better response rate because both ibrutinib and acalabrutinib hit the same binding site. But maybe if you don't have toxicities, you tolerate it, you don't discontinue much, and may translate in the long run with improved response rate. But I think this is a new drug that is important for us to add to the clinical practice. And as I said, it's been approved by the FDA for the management of patients with relapsed mantle cell. Another interesting abstract, which is it's a subset analysis of previously reported a trial called the LyMa trial, which is a randomized trial for, again, patients with frontline mantle cell lymphoma, where you treat the patients with rituximab plus platinum-based regimen. The platinum type was not specified, so it could be carboplatin, cisplatin, or oxaliplatin. And if you respond, you go to transplant with beam followed by maintenance rituximab versus observation. And then again, the data was reported, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, showing survival advantage for the patients who receive maintenance rituximab. What's being presented in this meeting is that subset analysis of the type of platinum used in the induction regimen. And surprisingly, oxaliplatin is winning here, although not many patients receive oxaliplatin. But in terms of a response rate and progression-free survival, even survival favored patients who receive oxaliplatin-based induction therapy, so what they call DHACs, and this is dexamethasone high-dose RC with oxaliplatin. I think this could be practice changing. It's easy to switch from cis to oxaliplatin. I think they may be added value, certainly less toxic than cisplatin. Other noteworthy, I think, presentations is the one that we are presenting in the tomorrow's session, introducing atezolizumab to frontline therapy of newly diagnosed patients with follicular lymphoma. So it's the first time we're moving checkpoint inhibitors to frontline regimens for lymphomas, and this is going to be presented tomorrow in combination with bendamustine and obinutuzumab, showing interesting results. Too early to call because the trial is still ongoing. There's 2 years maintenance of atezo plus obinutuzumab, but I think in terms of response rate, safety, and then the eradication of minimal disease, the data seems encouraging. And finally, I'd like to mention another abstract that we're presenting in the poster session this evening, looking at the role of PET staging in patients with follicular lymphomas. If you do PET staging, stage 1 and 2 certainly do better than those who are staged with old-fashioned CT scans in terms of survival and progression-free survival. It's very important because if that's true, this is the case, I don't think people should watch and wait patients with stage 1 disease at PET stage because they probably have a good chance of being cured if you administer curative intent chemotherapy, which is radiation therapy plus minus maybe chemo or antibody therapy. What's also important that there's a lot of interest in surrogate endpoints in follicular lymphomas. This is called PFS 24 or EFS 24, depending on the studies that reported this. Again, we looked at the PFS 24 and EFS 24 in patients who were staged with CT scan or PET scan. Clearly, if you stage the patient with CT scan, PFS 24 or EFS 24 have an impact on patient survival, as been reported before by other colleagues. But if you stage the patient with PET scan, this prognostic impact diminishes significantly. What this suggests that, if this is validated and confirmed by other groups and in a larger group of patients, that early progression, which is within 24 months, may not be as bad as we initially thought if the patient initially staged with a PET scan. The only explanation I can come up with why we're seeing this difference between PET and CT scan stage is because probably if we do PET scanning initially, we're pulling out the early transformers. The early transformed patients, they would probably be biopsied from the area that have a high PET activity, and you take them out of the buckets of follicular lymphomas, because 1/3 of patients who progress within 24 months based on the pre-trial actually patient with transformed lymphomas. So this may have an impact on how we practice, how we design clinical trials, but I think it needs to be confirmed by other groups.